What's up, everyone? Welcome to Cohn and Krueger. The Niners have won 2 games in a row, and people are feeling really good. So I have some questions for Larry, my co-host today, about just how good these 49ers are. First one, Jimmy Garoppolo, the quarterback. He's played pretty well the last few games. Is he playing the best football of his career?
He's finally gotten it that you can throw the ball away. You know what I mean? It's amazing. I mean, he sat there and watched Brady do it. Rodgers does it. Mahomes does it. Allen occasionally will do it. Sometimes you got to throw the ball away. Jimmy G has been undone. I think he's played pretty good football throughout his career. He's been undone by his biggest negative plays every week. Now he's finding a way to eliminate those negative plays. I saw it last night. He fires the ball into the, he had a ball to deep. I think it was Ayuk, middle of the field. He was covered, fired it into a soft spot where he could just make throw it right into the turf and go to the next play. So that's, making plays is key. Not making negative plays is almost as important.
Sure. That is a big change for him so far. And there's other changes. I think it's interesting that ESPN is not impressed. Their QBR stat, they have him at 48, which is just slightly below average and the worst of his career. So according to their stat, no, I have no idea how they calculate that. And it's probably they're probably holding those 2 safeties against him from earlier in the season, big time, I would imagine. Yeah. But if he can continue to eliminate the turnovers, that's all the Niners really need of him. Also, one more thing that we saw the last few games, the off-schedule throws, the one to McCaffrey for a touchdown against the Rams and the one to McLeod up the sideline against the Chargers, that was nice. Jimmy hasn't done that in a while. And then just all the sideline throws in general in this game, the one to Kittle, the one to Jennings, was there more? The one to Ayuk?
The one to Ayuk was the one that jumped out to me. It was the drive, second to last drive. They didn't score on the drive, but he stuck it in there, man. It was Ayuk one-on-one coverage on the perimeter, and him and the defender were kind of jockeying for position. And I'll say this about Jimmy Garoppolo. Say what you want. We all see the flaws. No guts, no glory. Can't say he doesn't have guts. He's got guts like a cat burglar. I mean, that almost was a pick 6. Easily could have been intercepted, and he just stuck it in there. And that, I'm seeing more zip outside the numbers than I remember seeing last year from Jimmy. It was like last year he didn't have the same zip. This year he can get it out there. I thought that past Ayuk was that was an eye opener to me. I went back and watched it again last night, and I thought, wow, I'm surprised. I'm impressed that he stuck it in there. I'm impressed that he made the throw, but I'm also impressed by the zip in the ball outside the numbers. Very nice throw. The throw that he's not supposed to be able to make, right?
Well, it's a throw he hasn't even attempted much the last few years since coming to the 49ers. He used to stick it when he was with the Patriots. And, I don't think he's ever going to become a guy who's going to be hitting passes 30, 40, 50 yards down the field. It's not really his game. But if he could at least incorporate the sideline throws, that would be great, considering you already have to worry about the stuff over the middle in the run game. So it does, it increases the potential of this 49ers offense. And it allows you to actually get Ayuk the ball. He wasn't really involved as much last year as he should have been. It's a good thing.
Yeah, he's got to get his rapport going with Ayuk, and Ayuk's got long arms, strong hands, and you can throw him the 50-50 ball, and he'll compete for it when he sees it. There's times when he looks non-competitive if he's late to turn on the ball, but I've seen, to me, Ayuk's been more competitive at the catch point, and I think that makes Jimmy more willing to give him a shot, give him a chance on those 50-50 balls.
I'm a little hesitant to say that Jimmy Garoppolo is playing the best of his life. Now, he played, I feel like he's played 4 good games in a row. Carolina killed him. Atlanta, they lost, but he played pretty well. Last 2 games he's won. I've seen him play good stretches before in October, November, and even December. I'd like to see him do something in the playoffs before I say he's a different guy, but the last month has been promising. I'll give him that.
Well, let's be honest about this. The Ram game, he got freaking lucky. He threw 2 pick 6s or 2 obvious interceptions to Ramsey. Ramsey dropped them both. So, that has to be factored in.
That's why I'm a little hesitant to just go, head over heels for the guy.
2 picks, they don't win that game. So You know what? I'm not going to say, but what I do see is I see some growth in that he seems willing and capable of throwing the ball away and going to the next down. And when you have the weaponry that he now possesses, turning the ball over is a major, major problem. It was always a major problem, but when you have these kinds of weapons, it's a bigger problem. I think he realizes that he's putting more value in protecting the football.
Ivan says, wear the shirts for Lance. Job for QC merch. Man, he got hurt before I had a chance.
Yeah.
See what happens. Ramon says, Colin Cowherd basically said we need to let Jimmy cook. So again, is Jimmy holding Kyle back or vice versa? It's really hard to tell.
Well, is Jimmy holding Kyle back or vice versa? Is the Niners O-line holding both of them back? Because I will say
possible.
this, the weapons are legit. Some of the play calls have been questionable. Did they lose some of their run game genius when McDaniel bolted to Miami? Possibly. They seem like they're running into some, more competitive situations. I don't see quite the same ingenuity with their run game, but ultimately, I think their tackle play has been disappointing. That, to me, if you say what's the most disappointing part of the Niners, I wouldn't say it's Jimmy or Kyle. I'd say it's the Niner offensive tackles.
Let's talk about that. So they play on Sunday Night Football. They're presenting themselves in front of the whole world, and finally some national pundits see what I've been talking about, or some of us have been talking about. Shannon Sharp lost his mind on Mike McGlinchey last night. Wouldn't even say his name. He said 69 is terrible, which is kind of how I feel. And so McGlinchey's been getting a lot of criticism the last 24 hours. Is it unwarranted? Do you think people are being too hard on Mike McGlinchey?
Well, no. I mean, he's a big boy. He kind of brought it on himself a little bit, talking and going into the game about how Niner fans preferred Derwin. Mike McGlinchey was a top 10 pick. You can question a top 10 pick being used on a right tackle, period. But then, he also had struggles with speed rushers, and now he's got injuries. So what do you have? You have a top 10 pick wasted on a right tackle. He's not a left tackle. He's a right tackle exclusively, who lacks some strength to anchor against bull rushers and lacks some speed to neutralize speed rushers. And that's when he's healthy, and he's banged up and not healthy. So that's where they're at. I mean, he's a pretty marginal player from what, I like him, nice guy to talk to and everything, but he's pretty marginal.
I've always felt that he's kind of marginal, especially in pass protection, but that's always been the case. I think the worst development with him this year is that he's no longer a good run blocker. In the past, they got big plays around the right side with Mostert and Kittle and McGlinchey. But now, the Niners run left more than any team in the league. When they run right, it seems like there's penetration a lot. Those toss plays to the right, those stretch plays to the right are pretty ineffective. And it's not just his fault, right? Burford's new, Brendel's new. Those three guys together aren't exactly getting it done on the outside zone to the right. But McGlinchey in particular at the point of attack, I really think he's hurting the run game. And that's why you're seeing Mitchell really look more effective than McCaffrey. They're different running backs. Mitchell's more between the tackles, and McCaffrey needs to get to the edge, and you can't get to the right edge, so they're running left, and defenses know it. And now you're sort of lost balance in your run game because of McGlinchey. This is what happened at the end of the Harbaugh years. They were dominant on the ground. They lost Anthony Davis in 2014, replaced him with Jonathan Martin, and they couldn't run right anymore. They went 8-8. It's a big deal.
This D-line that they played last night is one of the worst D-lines in pro football. And they at halftime, the Niners were averaging 3.2 yards a carry. So against a team that cannot stop the run.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Christian Covington. They made Sebastian Joseph Day and Morgan Fox and Christian Covington and Van. They made this front look really good. This front lost the big UCLA kid, Obonia or whatever. He's a talent. Mm-hmm. But and then he went down. Of course, they're already depleted. I was expecting the 49er offensive line to dominate in this matchup. They should have dominated. They didn't dominate.
I think an unheralded player from last year that's gone was Tom Compton. He was not a good pass protector, worse than McGlinchey, but he was a good run blocker. And with him on the field, the Niners could run right and left. And now he's gone. And they can't do that anymore, which is why I feel like they should give Colton McKivitz or Jalen Moore a shot. Neither one of those guys is an upgrade over McGlinchey in pass protection, but this is a team that wants to run the ball to the perimeter, and maybe those two guys could be better because, frankly, how could you be worse?
I don't know that either is an upgrade, but I'm pretty convinced that neither's a downgrade.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? I actually think McKivitz is pretty assignment sound. He's poised. The moment's not too big for him. His problem is his arms are a little short and he's not the quickest. So speed rushers are going to give him the same problems they give McGlinchey. Jalen Moore is intriguing because I think Jalen Moore's got upside to start and potentially could be better than McGlinchey, but then he's maybe not as trustworthy right now. So, I mean, I don't know what Chris Forster's gets paid good cash to make these calls. He says he doesn't have starters and backups. He's just got a bunch of guys basically. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm interested to see what Nick Zakelj looks like when Zakelj gets out there, but he's more of an interior guy. I mean, they're kind of a tackle short unless either McGlinchey can start playing at a better level. I mean, I can deal with the pass blocking, but the run blocking has got to be a strength. Otherwise, I think I'd rather go with Jalen Moore.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they got to make this switch. They got to be real honest about what they're doing in the run game. And I think it was the fact that they couldn't run the ball effectively with Christian McCaffrey against the worst run defense in the league. Why? Christian didn't forget how to run the ball. What's the problem? It's your offensive line, specifically the right side, specifically your right tackle. So what are you going to do? If Tom Compton was an upgrade as a run blocker last year, maybe you got an upgrade on your team right now. Double B Studio says, what's up, Grant and Larry? For the first time in 10 years, I'm going to miss the Niners coming to Phoenix, the Aztec Stadium, too far from me. LOL.
Stadio Azteca, not making it?
I'll be there. I do like the
street tacos. How courageous are you? Will you go street tacos in Mexico City?
Yeah, of course. What do I got to go to Mexico City to get Domino's? Like, yeah, I'm going to get some street tacos. Absolutely. Right. I hope they're great.
Report back.
Absolutely.
Talk to Alfredo Gutierrez. He was telling me last week that he knows all the hot spots.
Oh, okay. I'd like to know that. I'm probably not going to venture too far from the hotel though, because I'm not that brave. Ern says, could we move Burford to right tackle? I don't know if you want to be moving rookies around. I mean, he's got his hands full of right guard right now. I'd be more comfortable trying McKivitz or more. Me.
Burford was a phenomenal pick. He's a road grader. They're really nice at guard. He would just get abused by speed rushers. I mean, you think McGlinchey doesn't kick out fast enough. In Burford, it's one thing to do it for Texas San Antonio, and maybe next year in camp he could be worked in at right tackle. But to throw him out there now is just begging for somebody to just crush Jimmy Garoppolo.
I got another question about the offense. So McGlinchey, I think, is really holding back the run game. The passing game, I mean, the pass protection's been okay this year. Jimmy's playing decent or decent plus this year. He's got a bunch of good receivers, including George Kittle, who's been on the team a long time. He has a rapport with Jimmy Garoppolo. He makes a lot of money. He'll have a stretch where he'll get a bunch of targets and essentially play well, and then he'll get a game where he gets like one catch for 20 yards. And it's not his fault. I'm not saying George is washed. Kyle, how does he just forget about his $16 million tight end once a month or twice? I don't explain that, because I get starting to feel like if Kyle had Travis Kelce, he would do this with Kelce too. Oh, sorry, I forgot about you this week, bud. My bad.
I don't get why Kittle doesn't get at least one ball every time they go to the red zone. You have George Kittle. His toughness is unbelievable. He runs 4.5. His desire to win is off the charts. Let him touch.
He has good hands. He catches the ball. It's been this way his whole career. Kyle's never given him the opportunities in the end zone. When he gets catches in the red zone, it's usually like in front of the end zone. He has to power his way in. Like, man, he's 6'5" and he catches the ball. Please. I don't get it.
I'd like to see more from Kittle and more balls to Kittle and Ayuk in the red zone. Why? Because those are the guys that have the best ball skills, and they have the best ball skills. And Jennings, by the way, I've changed my tune on OBJ. If it's Jennings or OBJ, I'm staying with Jennings.
Jennings has a future. Jennings has been here. I like Jennings too. So let's talk about Kittle. Kittle gets totally phased out randomly of games. Debo never does. Debo, you can count on Debo getting his 10 touches. He'll get 6 targets, 4 carries every game, whether he's playing well or not. Why? I don't understand that.
Well,
it seems like Kittle's been.
The answer is that Kittle is utilized in the run game to try to pop a hole here and there because you're maybe on the right side of your line. You know you need a little help for your run blocking unit on the right side of the line. Maybe that's it. Other than that, but I mean, to me, that excuses why you don't use him more, but nothing excuses why you don't use him more in the red zone because he can take a hit and hold on. That's what happens in the red zone. The windows are small, and George is I think a very good route runner, well above average hands. But yeah, his touchdown production is nowhere close to what it could be.
If they're using him to supercharge the outside run game on the right side, it's not working. They're not paying him $16 million a year to be a run blocker. I know it's a nice feature of his game, but Kyle can't forget about throwing him the ball, considering Debo's inconsistent. As well as Ayuk played in this particular game, he fumbled and dropped a touchdown pass. Kittle was playing great. He caught a ball down I don't know. It just seems like it's on Kyle. Like, you brought in all these weapons, dude. It's on you to use each one enough and not too little. And with Kittle 22 points. If they scored 30, I'd say forget it. But this is an offense that Kyle even admits we're leaving a lot of points on the board. Well, you're not using your playmakers to their fullest capacity.
There's no question they should be scoring more points than 22 a game.
Yeah.
22 a game at home against the Chargers with weapons that are equal to what the NFC is going to feature in the Pro Bowl. Well, actually, they're never going to play the Pro Bowl again, but you know what I'm saying.
And a genius coach and a quarterback who's playing well. So what's the deal? And he's like, for red zone, this play, that play. All right, man. Okay, well, you know what? Here's my suggestion. I'm stealing it from Larry. Throw the damn ball to George Kittle in the end zone. I'm taking the idea. Just Seriously. Like you took Mike McDaniel's ideas the last 20. Okay, I got a question for you. This is about defense. Dre Greenlaw, very violent player. Not in a bad way. He's not a dirty player. He runs fast. He hits hard. Extreme violence is what Robert Saleh preaches or used to. And then I was D'Amico Ryans. He hit Justin Herbert in the head pretty hard. Again, it didn't look on purpose at all. But it happened. Penalty, Kyle Shanahan said he expected it. The ejection, he said he didn't expect. There could be a fine. There could be a suspension. What do you think of the way Greenlaw's been dealt with?
It did seem egregious to eject him on that play.
It felt like targeting. It felt like a college ruling.
Which I hate the targeting rule, by the way. But
it felt like that. Yeah.
Does this guy have like a rep?
They make it so.
Some huge rep.
He had a couple. He had a couple late
arguing with officials.
He had a couple late hits in Chicago, 1 or 2, but it wasn't anything he got fined over. Has he ever been fined?
Well, I'll say this. If I'm Kyle Shanahan, I'll say, what's the fine? I'll pay it. And if I don't pay it, Lynch will pay it. And if Lynch doesn't pay it, Jed will pay it. Somebody's paying it. You're not paying it. Because that guy's, he's my favorite Niner. Him and Aziz. Those guys fly around and they detonate. And they just, and I didn't even sweat it when I saw Greenlaw went out because I'm like, well, they got Al Shire. They got another guy who's literally the same guy right now who's going to, be, going to be a great replacement. I didn't get it. What I saw in that play was Ward hit Herbert. Herbert's trajectory changed.
Yeah,
these guys
kind of lunge forward. Yeah,
these guys are not U.S. Olympic gymnasts. All right? Stop treating these defensive players like they're gods as far as what they can hit in the strike zone and what's a penalty and what's not. Greenlaw was doing nothing but playing fast in the neighborhood when Herbert got hit into his path, and then it went helmet to helmet. If Ward doesn't hit him, and he had no chance to react to the Ward hit, which changed Herbert's whole angle. Once Ward hit Herbert, the angle changed. It was instantaneous, and then you're just helmet on a helmet. That was – now, I understood the penalty because quarterbacks are the money ticket, the meal ticket. It's never going to change. It's only going to get more like this because they mean a ton. because nobody wanted to watch Rams Cardinals this week with their backup quarterbacks because the quarterback means everything. So I get protecting the quarterback. I get, why it's a penalty. I didn't get the suspension. And I think we're trying to pretend like these defensive players in some of these guys, I mean, this is a linebacker, 250 pounds. But some of these guys are 290 that are getting these penalties. They're not gymnasts. They cannot react in that small of a space and that quick of a time with that kind of athleticism. They're great athletes, but they're not that great. And so you got to dial back some of these penalties. Some of these, what you're asking for the defense to do, strike above the knee, below the neck. Don't include go with the helmet in any way. The game's incredibly fast. I mean, to me, I have a lot of sympathy for what the hell are these guys supposed to do.
Yeah, but when it happened, I said in my seat, they're going to eject him. And not because I felt
ejection.
Oh, I didn't think he deserved it.
Who's the last player that we've seen ejected?
Quan Alexander, when he hit Jameis Winston, week 1, 2019. Week 1, 2019. He hit Jameis Winston.
3 years ago is the last person.
It happens. He hit him in there. I'm just telling you. As soon as it happened, I'm like, oh, they're going to eject him. Not that he should get ejected, but this is the NFL, and they don't care about players. They don't care about player safety. They care about their image. And they have an image problem. Yeah, they have an image problem since Tua happened. They have to act like they care about protecting players from concussions. So you hit, dude, you're going to get ejected. I'm sorry. And it's because of what happened in Miami earlier this year. But the league needs to look like they're tough on this.
They're not protecting players, Grant. They're protecting
themselves.
They're protecting
themselves. Yes. They're protecting
They don't care about players. They care about valuable players. Because
they care about the perception that they care about players.
You can hit Austin Eckler that way. You just can't hit Herbert that way.
Right, because Herbert is famous. He's a top 5 quarterback in the league. If he gets knocked out and if he got a concussion and Greenlaw didn't get ejected, people be talking about it on Good Morning Football and Scott Van Pelt Live.
Yeah, what if he went to the blue tent and didn't come back? Second half was Chase Daniel.
I'm telling you.
I would love to know how we were watching. We were there. The Bay Area was watching. The LA market, or if you're a Charger fan, you might have been watching. But the rest of the nation, if you go Chase Daniel, there's a bunch of people turning it off right there.
Ratings go down. And so I felt like Herbert was not the same in the second half. I felt like I was surprised that he came back and he got hit really, really hard. Not that Greenlaw was doing it on purpose. It was just one of those things in football. But yeah, I thought, okay, he's going to get ejected. I don't think they're going to.
Could have been the key to the game, by the way, because then he went out. He had to go to the blue tent. And by the time he got back on the field, they had already settled for the field goal.
They were right there in position to score. Yeah, that was a big play. It was a big play. So actually,
he wanted to come back, but they just timed it a little off.
The Niners should be like, hey, Dre, that was a really good play. And we know you didn't mean to hurt him. So we're going to pay that fine for you, buddy. Yeah, we're going to pay that fine for you, buddy. Yeah.
Kept 4 points off the board. And I'll tell you this, I kind of thought Staley kind of blew it. If I was Staley, I would have called the timeout. Get him back out there. He had one down. He had one down where I was watching on the binoculars. He was out of the blue tent and he had his helmet back in his hand.
Yeah.
And there was one play left and he elected to go with Chase Daniel.
It's amazing how many bad coaches there are in the league. And then what's crazy is Jeff Saturday gets a job and everyone's like, this is disgraceful. There are so many more qualified people who deserve this job. And he wins. He freaking wins because you know what? There are a lot of unqualified glorified coordinators with no leadership skills making $10 million a year to be head coaches like Josh McDaniels and freaking Nathan Hackett and this guy, Brandon Staley, that some dude who has no experience like Jeff Saturday can get a team to put up 25 points and win. Crazy to me. Brandon Staley, you're fired. Dre Greenlaw, good luck. Double B Studio says the real question is how they're going to keep Debo from eating 20 tacos, 2 tortas, and a burrito in Mexico. I couldn't resist. How are they going to keep me from doing that? They're only going to be in Mexico for like a minute and a half. Maybe that's part of the reason.
Really? Is that they're flying late?
Like Sunday. They're coming in Sunday and playing. They're spending a lot of time in. Why Colorado Springs? You're 3 hour drive from Lake Tahoe. What about Lake Tahoe? Lake Tahoe is right there. Right there. And you got to go to Colorado Springs? Man.
You know what the Lake Tahoe doesn't have that Colorado Springs has? The Broadmoor.
What?
Isn't that where they're staying? I think they're staying at the Broadmoor. The Broadmoor is like this awesome pimp daddy, 5-star, world-class, resort.
What about Lake Tahoe High School? They got a field.
Yeah, the Niners are laying out on Kings Beach, getting an ice cream cone. Yeah.
Jonathan Correa. Why not? It'd be more convenient for me. Jonathan says, love what you're doing, Grant. I look forward to your shows. Thank you, Jonathan. Since you've been in the locker room, from what you've seen, is Trey Lance a leader? Yeah, he was for the minute and a half that he was the leader of the team. I haven't seen him since he got hurt. I think someone else said they saw him on the sideline.
Saw he's got the boot off. I thought he would. I said, first of all, what is a leader? All I'll say is that because I've been in there as well, he had a great rapport going with his teammates, but that doesn't mean that they feel like he's competent. That just means they feel like they like him. So it's there's a big difference between, I think he's got respect in the room. I think he's one of the guys, but he has
to prove it on the field.
Yeah, what does that actually mean as far as his performance? I think very little.
Josh Wyatt says, I bet if you gave Jennings one red zone shot a game, he would score 10 touchdowns a season like Bourne used to. Does Kyle just hate ISO ball now? Yeah, Bourne used to be his secret weapon. When you were really trying hard to stop Kittle and Debo, boom, touchdown Bourne. But maybe that was Mike McDaniel. Maybe that was his tendency. Possible.
I love Jennings' hands, by the way. I'd love if I could give one athlete another athlete's skills, I would give James Wiseman Juwan Jennings' hands.
James Wiseman reference. Double B Studio says the announcers and Mike Pereira on TV agreed ejection was too far, and why aficionados made a mistake. Flag okay, but ejection. Look, I'm not saying he deserved to get ejection. All I said was I called it. I know the league is reactive. They look bad. They want to make themselves look better. Dre Greenlaw, you're collateral damage. Sorry, buddy. That's just how the league works, and it sucks.
Especially national TV, especially.
That's a good point.
Culture. We're a highlight culture.
That's a good point.
The highlight was of the guy's head getting rocked.
If it was just a regular 1:00 game, he probably wouldn't have been ejected, but it was a national televised game. It's a golden boy playing quarterback. He was screwed. Sorry, Dre, you were screwed. Matthew says, want to say Cowherd got it right today on Kyle Shanahan. Basically, just shut up, line up, and play, and that you don't need to outsmart everyone all the time. I have a feeling that Colin Cowherd is talking to someone in Jimmy's camp because he is parroting all the Jimmy talking points to a T every week. And I don't know, maybe Don Yee calls him up and says, this is what you should say this week, or I don't know who, but man, he is so Team Jimmy, and he's not really in Kyle's corner anymore.
It's amazing that Cowherd has such an obvious bias and an obvious conflict of interest, and yet he parks his car in the Niners thing, and it just crushes him. Every time he goes there, it's like everybody just immediately throws out that his daughter dated, Trey, and that he's not an unbiased observer here, and that he's got an agenda, and it's like doesn't bother him, man. He just keep going at it.
Antonio says if you go out and get street tacos, go one that has carnitas. There are restaurants that have good tacos. You don't have to get it in the streets. Okay, I love carnitas. My whole thing in the Bay Area is I go to the trucks. If it's in a restaurant, I'm like, this is probably for gringos. Oh, it's in a truck? I'm there. I'm there. And that usually that's a good way to live in the Bay Area.
Okay,
if you see a taco truck, it's the bomb.
Yeah, no question. But I will say this: a really good place is in Montclair. There's a little taqueria right there in Montclair.
Oh yeah, shout out them. I've been going there since I was like 12 years old. The Super Wet Burrito. It's very good.
Yeah, I mean,
it's excellent.
Really good. Yeah,
it's legendary. Double B Studio says the positive green's going to be fresher versus Cardinals. Greens going to be fresher. What is he talking about?
Don't know.
Green? Like mustard greens? Are we talking
Roy Green?
Roy.
He's played for the Cardinals.
Triple tacos, Grant. Tripe or tongue or head, all good. Yeah, I'm usually not that adventurous.
You know marinated tongue?
I have. It's good, and I know all like the OGs go. Like the only people that get carne asada are the gringos. It's what I've kind of noted. I feel like everyone else has taste for something a little bit more exotic, and I'm like, yeah, I'm the gringo. I'll have the carne asada. Right, carne asada, please. Yet nobody ejected when Lance had his ankle broke. He didn't get hit in the head. I mean, a helmet-to-helmet hit is something that will get you ejected in college, even if it's inadvertent. And that's what it kind of felt like. It felt like one of these inadvertent targeting, which is like it's not really a rule in the NFL. It's
It was a bad highlight, and the flag was super late anyway, by the way.
It was.
Nobody ever mentions that, by the way. That's like just an accepted part of football now, that, oh, yeah, the ridiculously late flag is not – nobody even questions it. It's like, oh, yeah, here comes the flag.
Mario says Kyle proved again how bad he is at the 5-yard line after stopping the Chargers. We don't even score with all that momentum. Really, Kyle? That was at the end of the game. They kicked the field goal to go up 6. I didn't have a problem with that because it was clear that the Chargers were not going to move the ball in the second half. What I thought was crazy or surprising was that first drive when they go all the way down the field, get to the 2-yard line, and kick a field goal. I didn't like that. Go for it. Because the worst thing that happens is you give the Chargers the ball at the 2-yard line. I like that situation too. You can score in that situation too. Like, what are you afraid of?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You have the number 1 defense in the league.
And you have all this firepower on offense. You got 4 chances to get the ball in. Come on, man.
I'll tell you this. I mean, we're an awful lot of talk about Kyle and this and that. My bigger issue is with D'Amico. I think D'Amico and the defense come out super vanilla, allow a quarterback to establish a rhythm. Why? Yeah. And then start busting out all the exotics on third down. Yeah. I mean, come on. Shut off his water before the game starts, and then you don't have to worry about getting him out of rhythm.
Yeah, like the plan is we're going to make DeAndre Carter and Josh Palmer and Gerald Everett look really good for a half and then shut them down. Like, no, just shut them down. They're not good.
Blitzing him on second down. He started going after Herbert and giving him a bunch of different looks. And, but why not do that in the first quarter? Same with Stafford, Grant. Go back to that game. Look at the defensive game plan in the first half. He was playing pitch and catch, a lot of soft zone. Second half, hey, tighten up, man-to-man, coordinated rush, coordinated everything. How about
do it the whole game?
Yeah. Let's go 4 quarters next time, huh?
The Niners are kind of lucky that 88, whatever that dude's name was, that alligator arm, that walk-in touchdown, that freaking – you remember that in the first half? Justin Herbert laid it out for him, 88.
Oh, yeah,
had it. I mean – that was a nice throw. Justin Herbert, I think, is really good. It's the only time I've seen him in person in a game. He had no receivers, and he battled till the end. I was impressed.
Tough guy. Yeah. No, the guy throws an incredible ball. I mean,
incredible.
He was the only reason that game was ever in question, just because he was on the strength of his arm and his ability to wing it, because they didn't have much last night besides him.
Antonio, thank you for the guidance. Says USA Trucks equals Mexican restaurant tacos. Yeah, it's better in the street. Restaurant ain't bad at all. Fogoncito, Tecate. I can't even do it. But I'll go back and look. I swear I can't. I took French in school. I'm sorry, which was not helpful. Okay, last question. Topic.
Why did so many people take French? I also took French. What the hell were we thinking?
At my middle school, there was the best teacher at the school was the French teacher. Everyone knew it. He was like 28. He was cool. Everyone wanted to be in his class. So a lot of people took French at that one school because him. Shout out Mr. Harp. All right. Who has been the best new addition to the starting lineup since last season? I guess you could put Christian McCaffrey in that mix. But there's been a lot of new additions.
I know who I'm going with.
There's been a lot. Go ahead. Travarius Ward, Talanoa Hufanga. There's so many guys.
Nope. I'm going big Aaron Banks.
Aaron Banks, that's another good one. Aaron
Banks has been really good, and I'll give it up to Lynch because, and I know you noticed it as well. Everybody was bagging on Banks. Banks is inactive. He's only been active 2 times, and then finally Lynch had enough, and is like, hey. For all you guys, pouring sand on Aaron Banks, this just in. We still think Aaron Banks is going to be a hell of a player, and this guy's going to be in the league for a long time. And that made a lot of people who were kind of crapping on Banks go, wait a second. Lynch is doubling down on Banks. Sure enough, Lynch is right. Banks has been a revelation. Speed, power, strength, smarts. He's a nice player at left guard.
He's like everything that Mike McGlinchey isn't. And the reason I compare them is that they both went to Notre Dame. They have similar pedigree. And what the difference is, McGlinchey was the first-round pick, the top 10 pick. Banks was the second-round pick. There's a difference. And so with McGlinchey, the Niners drafted him to start right away, to replace Trent Brown. They anointed him. He never earned the job. And what they say about him is, what Joe Staley said about him is he's a little insecure about his weaknesses. That he won't necessarily attack them and be honest with himself about the weaknesses and improve them. He's more trying to pretend he's already good. And what they said, what Kyle said about Banks today is that he doesn't run from his weaknesses. He said all the stuff that the Niners wish they could say about Mike McGlinchey. So the fact that they put him on the bench for a year, they made him prove it. They made him rework his body, rebuild his entire body, and he basically gave him a challenge he had to rise to. Apparently, he worked harder than any player on the team, or as hard as any player on the team this offseason. It worked. It paid off. I don't know if McGlinchey's ever been put in a position like that where he had to prove himself. So kudos to the Niners to developing Banks the right way. I don't know if he could have done this last year.
Yeah. I mean, Banks has got more natural gifts. He's got a better body to play guard than McGlinchey has a body to play tackle. And now McGlinchey's beat up. McGlinchey, I think, was operating at a pretty high level for a first-year player, much higher than most tackles. So I don't have a problem with the fact that
he was a good run. He was a good run blocker for a couple of years.
He has regressed because his body is beaten up. I mean, he struggles to get to the line of scrimmage. He's probably nursing about 5 different injuries. That's not an excuse, but it's a reason. And he's never been he doesn't bury you in the run game. He's more like takes the right angle, doesn't make mistakes, but
gets
he's
downfield.
But he also kind of, susceptible to the speed rush. Now his game's falling apart. They didn't pick up the 5th-year option, right? I imagine he goes in free agency at the end of the year.
And he's not having a particularly great contract year. All right, I'm gonna list someone else as a best new addition. Charvarius Ward has been excellent, but I feel like the real biggest addition, at least on defense, has been Talanoa Hufanga. We talked about him earlier. He's not a perfect player. He gave up a touchdown, and it was not a good play. And it seems like as the season goes on, teams are going to try to isolate him in coverage more and more. Still, he's a playmaker. And it's kind of like Richard Sherman. You could go after Richard Sherman, and you could get some. He's not the fastest guy. He might give up some catches, but you target him 5 times in a game, you might get picked off once. Like, do it at your own peril. And I think what's interesting is he replaces Tart. And Tart was a solid safety he could play both positions. He could be in the box. He could be in the post. The defense is better with Talanoa Hufanga. He's a playmaker. And he also, in addition to his play, he takes accountability, which I don't think this team really does. Ever since they lost the Super Bowl, but partied with Lil Wayne afterward and said they should have won because Bosa got held, I feel like the whole attitude has been off. He comes to the post-game press conference last night, the hero, because he made the interception that Tart couldn't make in the NFC Championship game, just to close it. And he says, first of all, that was my fault, that touchdown at the beginning of the game. That was on me. I want to take credit for it. No one was even asking him about it. We were going to be up there and be like, can you take us through that interception? Wasn't that great? Take us through that a million times. He was like, nah, let's talk about that touchdown I gave up. That was my fault. Gotta love that. You don't hear that very much from the 49ers.
Oh, he's the best, man. He's the best. I mean, seriously. Now,
you never hear that from Mike McGlinchey. I'm sorry to keep coming back to Mike McGlinchey, but he's never done anything wrong in his eyes.
Yeah, I mean, Hufanga's, I'm not saying McGlinchey's not accountable, but I'll just say Hufanga is extraordinary. But I'll also say this, when we were talking before we went live here, and Hufanga is not the player that people said he was on draft day, a special teamer strictly who, isn't fast enough at all to play coverage in the NFL.
Maybe a linebacker. Yeah.
He's not that guy. Mm-mm. But then he's also not this like, oh my God, he's an all-pro strong safety, and there's nobody in the league that matches
he's
up.
He's Troy Polamalu.
Yeah, he's Troy Polamalu, and he's headed to Canton. He still has issues. His issues are in coverage in the deep quarter of the field, and that remains an issue. And that first play, it was a zone, but he was the closest defender. That was pitch and catch. That was almost like a busted play, so he has to improve his pass coverage down the field. Now, he's more competitive. He's going to improve. He's going to work on his deal, but he does lack some long speed, and that's going to be his career issue going forward. He's up on the line of scrimmage against the run, cover 3, great instincts. He sees it. There's no hesitation. He just goes. But down the field, in coverage, in space against an athlete, he's still very vulnerable. So, just something that you got to know yourself, and he knows himself, and I'm sure he'll work on it, but that's the weakness in this game, clearly.
But it seemed like on that touchdown that it wasn't necessarily that he just got smoked athletically, that he also has a tendency to have his eyes in the backfield, even if he shouldn't. And he knows he's not a premium athlete, and he's trying to break early and be instinctual. And, A guy like that can be right 9 times out of 10. But the one time you have a feeling and you break early and you're wrong, it's a big play if the quarterback recognizes it. And I think that's maybe the life you're going to have to live with Talanoa Hufanga. But you know what? It's better than having 2 safeties who hang back and never make plays on the ball, and the best thing they do is tackle. Like, I'll take Talanoa. I like a safety like that, and if he can get a little bit better, a little bit more consistent, he could be a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro.
Well, I mean, there are some guys who are awesome going forward and can't go backward. There's other guys that can go backward and are not much going forward. He is, and there are guys who are great at both. He's a guy who, if you think about it, every great highlight of his career, outside of the one play that he made at the end of the Green Bay game in the playoffs, almost every other highlight is him coming forward. You hardly have any highlights of him going backward.
Yeah.
So that tells you what kind of player
Well, the highlights of him going backward are him chasing the guy for the touchdown. Christian Kirk caught the ball over his head last year. Colt McCoy just eviscerated Talanoa last year. Colt McCoy. So, hey, Talanoa, revenge game, baby. That's on you.
Way, Colt McCoy last year in that game completed 84%.
It was unreal. Are the Cardinals better with him than with Kyler? Because the Niners have actually done a good job against Kyler like the last 3 times they faced him. You
didn't see the Cardinals on HBO Max, did you?
Oh, no.
Go check it out. The Cardinals. The Hard Knocks. They're already fighting. DeAndre Hopkins and
I saw that. I saw that. I did see that.
They were giving each other funny looks. I mean, that's a S show, man. That's an S show. That's a team that's coming apart at the seams.
I'd love to see them go on and run with Colt McCoy and try to figure out what to do after giving Kyler Murray like $1 billion. What do we do? I don't know. I guess we just stick with Colt McCoy. The thing about Colt McCoy is it seems like he operates the offense the way Cliff would like it to be operated. Cliff, I don't know what Kyler does. I mean, he has a very bad winning percentage after Call of Duty comes out. They tried to put a homework clause in his. It doesn't look like he really knows what he's doing, and he's just out there winging it, which is fun. But I don't know if that's going to get it done. Maybe they're better off with Colt. I don't know.
Well, and Colt in a lot of ways is made. I mean, you remember Colt at Texas completed like 77% of his passes. Nothing's more than 15 yards down the field.
Yeah.
That's Kingsbury's offense. Get rid of it quick, underneath, with accuracy. In a lot of ways, I think you make a really compelling point. I think you can make an argument that Colt McCoy might have greater success than Kyler running that Kingsbury offense.
Right.
But there's just a lot of bad vibes with the Cardinals. Lots of unprofessionalism. Lots of glimpses into dysfunction there, from the owner to the coach to the GM to the quarterback to some of the veterans on the team to their practice habits to the way they reacted when it rained in Arizona. I mean, watch 2 episodes of that Hard Knocks with the Cardinals and tell me that they're not an S show.
I have a hot take. I think Kyler's in the wrong system for him. I think he'd be better off playing for Kyle, getting under center and being able to get out on the perimeter off play action. I mean, just staying stationary in the shotgun. He's 5'9". He can't even see down. He can't even see from the pocket. Why do you want him in the pocket? The only time he can get out of the pocket is when he leaves on his own. Kyle does a good job of moving. Well, when he doesn't have Jimmy Garoppolo, does a good job of moving launch points and other traditional. I think he's in the wrong scheme. That's my thing.
Bring Kyler to Santa Clara is what you're saying?
Absolutely. He can back up Trey Lance. DR prioritized shutting down Eckler. Can't fault it. Yeah, but you can't also let guys like Carter. You can't let DeAndre Carter look like DeAndre Hopkins. You can't let that happen. And it was happening for a second.
He's Sac State.
He's a Sac State. The Niners brought him into camp in 2017 and cut him, and then he ended up going up for like 80 yards against him. Good for DeAndre. A lot of guys.
He's a vet, man. He's been around, man.
Yeah. DeAndre Carter got a little revenge on the Niners. Dante Pettis, Jerick McKinnon. Am I missing anyone? It's been that kind of a year.
Yeah. Seriously.
It's been that kind of year. All right. Well, that's the show for today. Larry, what you got on the docket for the week?
The Niners are in Colorado Springs, so won't be going to practice on Wednesday or Thursday, but we will be doing live streams throughout the week, talking a little bit about the schedule ahead and the Cardinal game and the games that follow. So we'll do that. We'll do a little Warrior post game tonight after Warriors Spurs, and it'll be kind of a combination, a little post game night. I went live last night in the car on the way home, and then a little bit at home. But we'll go live tonight after the Spurs game, talk a little Warriors, talk a little Niners, maybe even look ahead to Aaron Judge signing with somebody other than the Giants.
The last 5, 6, 7 years, I haven't talked much about the Warriors. I used to cover all teams. I find them boring.
I see you tweeting Warriors every now and then. You're getting
what I said, I found them boring. Somehow, like, winning is what fans want. But from a journalist perspective, I think dramatic tension is what I like, and there was none of it with the Warriors. So now there is, and they're very interesting. Like, is their title window closing prematurely because Joe Lacob wants to have 2 timelines? This is very interesting. So all of a sudden, I'm hooked. This is a great season.
Is
Absolutely.
James Wiseman a total bust?
He might be. Are people afraid to say? Anyway, so it seems like this is a very fun year.
Oh, I would die if how could we get some sponsor to have you on asking Kerr questions in the post game?
The thing is, I feel for Kerr.
Steve,
Yeah.
Where was Kuminga? What has Kuminga not done to not get any minutes? It would just be awesome.
I do feel like Kerr, this is a Lacob thing, and Kerr probably would agree with us privately. Like, yeah, man, he's making me play. These kids are terrible. Like, sorry, bud. He writes the checks. Yeah. Oh, well. See, Turley, hey, stop giving me money, and the show is over right now. What is that 33-yard pass from Jimmy G to Ray the nicest pass you've ever seen from him? I think it was.
Jimmy looked good last night. Jimmy ought to take last night's film and cut it up for the highlight reel.
It might have been the nicest throw he's ever made. When is the Cohn phone this week? Maybe I can join. Good question. I don't know. Let me figure that out. I'm going to be on the road in Colorado Springs. On Saturday, I'm flying to Mexico. I don't think I get into like 2:30 in the afternoon. But that might, what is that, like 3 hours ahead? I have no idea. So let me figure it out. But I'll do one. I'll let you know.
You got to go live from Mexico City.
Oh, absolutely. I will, of course.
With the street tacos.
With the lengua and the carnita. What did I say, Double B? Boo money, LOL. Thank you for the $2. I appreciate it. Show's over. Go enjoy your night.